G'day, Professor Joseph Drew here. You would have heard recently in the media that our commercial consultant friends have been caught once again behaving really badly, behaving against the interests of our citizens and our government. In this video, I'll explain what the core problem is and what the solutions are. So this time it's PwC that's been caught out. I actually find them the best out of the big four commercial consultants. Not that I like any of the commercial consultants at all, but it's interesting. They've been caught out actively working against the interests of Australian citizens and Australian federal government, even though they were taking money from the Australian citizens and the federal government. What's also interesting is that in the past we've had Ernst & Young caught, we've had KPMG caught out in New South Wales, both sides of the WestConnect debate, both sides of the amalgamation debate, and the core problems are really clear, and they're the reason why commercial consultants will probably always be at odds with citizens and government. But there are solutions, so hang on and I'll tell you about the problems and the solutions. And of course, this has happened to local government several times. Still, some people don't understand that KPMG work, the work that underwrote the disastrous amalgamations in New South Wales, the amalgamations that didn't save us money, that actually cost us an extra 11%, that resulted in 60+% tax increases in the poor amalgamated communities, that work was held cabinet in confidence. It was a secret report, a report that's never been put up to public scrutiny. Yet we paid for it. Similar with Deloitte's work for the Boundaries Commission to justify not de-amalgamating these councils. Once again, report commissioned by agencies of the state government, paid for by the public, but held from public scrutiny, held up as another secret report. We got a redacted version. Now, how we reconcile this commercial work that citizens pay for, that works against the interests of citizens, but is also kept secret from citizens, with the idea of a transparent democracy where the citizens actually rule. How we reconcile those two very different concepts is quite beyond me. Now, there's two irreconcilable differences between government and commercial consultants, which explains why we have these commercial consultants behaving badly and why we will continue to have these commercial consultants behaving badly as long as we're silly enough to engage them. One is motivation. The purpose of government is for people to cooperate, for government to be responsive to our needs and to be directed by the will of the people. The purpose of commercial consulting, the purpose of business, as Milton Friedman famously said, is to make a profit. Not to meet our needs, not to be responsive to the will of people, but to make a profit. The other key difference between government and commercial consultants is duration. A government is there after the engagement to wear the blame, to cop the blame, to deal with the consequences. A commercial consultant comes in, they issue the report, they walk away. It's someone else's mess to deal with. So these two distinctions between government and commercial consulting explains why it's a very bad idea for government to continue to outsource its decision making to commercial consultants, because those differences are irreconcilable. So there's a number of solutions. I reckon we can group them around the two core problems, those irreconcilable differences. The first one is that difference in motivation. Government's there to serve people, to be a reflection of the will of the people. Business is there to make a profit. Well, the simplest solution to that problem is to simply not use commercial consultants, use public servants. We do have public servants with appropriate skills. And if we don't, we need to skill them. We shouldn't need to outsource the business of government to commercial consultants. We should demand to know who actually did the work. I've yet to see a commercial consultant report where it lists the names and the qualifications and the experience of the authors. All I see is the brand. KPMG, PwC, whatever. Why don't we know who wrote it? Isn't there a real risk if we don't know what the qualifications and experience of this person was? How do we judge whether we should trust it or not? We should demand quality work. You look at some of these commercial consultant reports. Honestly, the quality is appalling. I would be disappointed if my high school student children couldn't do better. Usually it's just a recounting of some conversations they had with different people with no statistical rigor in there at all, no randomization or anything like that, and some facts that I could have Googled, usually straight off the ABF's National Regional Profile website. What is the value there? Unless they're doing something different, unless they're doing some sort of robust, sophisticated empirical analysis, unless they're giving us the benefits of their great knowledge of the scholarly literature, or they can refer to particular experiences, multiple experiences where they would have more knowledge than anyone else, what are we actually buying here? Just a whole heap of opinion that we could have Googled ourselves. We should demand that the consultants front up to the community, that they say what they decided and justify why they decided it. Usually we don't ask these commercial consultants to justify themselves, to front up to the community. They're faceless people who write secret reports and who get to walk away with no consequences. The other big difference is this difference in duration. The government's there and the community's there to suffer the consequences and pick up the pieces afterwards. The commercial consultants already ridden off into the horizon with their bags of money. So how do we extend the shadow of the future so that they start bearing some consequences for overly optimistic assumptions or guesswork or poorly thought out projections based on what they thought their client wanted them to write? Well, one key way to do that is to insist on the whole report being put up as a public document so that people can look at it in the future, hold it up to scrutiny, compare the assumptions and projections to what actually happened, and thus extend that shadow of the future. Not have secret reports where they can walk away and no one can check on the veracity or the quality of what they said. To actually have the full public document so that people can perform the sorts of check that the government as client should be doing. And the government as client should hold these consultants to account. If the work transpires in the future that it wasn't fit for purpose, if they said you're going to save heaps of money from amalgamation, for instance, and actually costs went way up, and they should have seen that if they bothered to look at the scholarly literature from other states where it was shown that that would happen, where those assumptions were entirely implausible, well, then the work hasn't been fit for purpose, and a legal remedy should be sought for compensation because they provided a poor quality product. It wasn't fit for the purpose that they were engaged to produce it for. Now, that's a simple legal argument. But there's also a marketplace argument here. If a commercial consulting firm has produced poor quality work, you simply don't use the firm in the future. And what is really interesting to me is you see these commercial consultants do poor quality work for one state government, they walk across to the next state government, do exactly the same poor quality work. In fact, I saw an example recently. There wasn't much difference between the rubbish work they did last time and the rubbish work they did the next time. It was cut and paste with very, very minor changes. So the new state government was basically purchasing rubbish work that had already been produced in the past and just altered a little bit to suit the context. We need to hold them to account, and we need to not keep giving them business if they're doing poor quality work. You see these commercial consultants get caught out behaving badly, and yet they get more work from the same government. It's just beyond comprehension. Certainly if I was given poor quality work, I simply would not go back there again. It's as simple as that. Look, there is another option, of course. If you need help, if you need independent advice, and you don't have the staff, the public servants to do it, and that's to go to a not-for-profit, such as the university. I don't think it's any secret. I do consulting from time to time, but I always tell my clients, look, before you engage me, you're going to get the truth, whether you like it or not. I insist that the full reports become public documents that are available into the future, and I will be coming out and doing a forum to the public, and I will be saying what I found and justifying why I found it. And I will be saying who I am and what my qualifications and experience are, and who the co-authors are and what their qualifications and experience are. And I will be accountable because I have an academic reputation that I cannot afford to lose. I'm very concerned that my projections and my assumptions stand up to the test of time, because they will affect my future career. So that's an option. We don't have to keep making this mistake, and there's other academics that do consulting. So I just don't understand why government seems to feel that it's beholden to these commercial consultants, that the commercial consultants should be calling the tune and the citizens should be paying for work that they never get to see, which is not at an acceptable quality, which is often when these commercial consultants are also actively working against the interests of citizens. There is an answer to the problem. Look, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please give it the thumbs up. Please subscribe, and please flick it on to someone else. I think more people need to understand that our government doesn't run the show. More and more, it's these commercial consultants who are running the show, and we're paying for it, and we're not getting particularly good product for our money. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.